actually get into the video for today and for the ghost at Virginia Avenue Park, I do want to talk a little bit about why I'm doing this. um, yes, this is a travel channel, but that's not all of who I am. I'm not just a travel agent. I'm not just a YouTuber. I also I also have recently discovered that I am a psychic medium. And so I want to get into that a little bit before we actually talk about Virginia Avenue Park and about what I found there. Um, and just kind of how these episodes are going to be structured going forward. About half of the episodes in season one do deal with the paranormal and they deal with spirits. So I'm going to say honestly that you would ask me even a year ago, if you had told me a year ago I would be doing this, I would have looked at you like you were out of your mind. I grew up in the Catholic Church and I've always been very spiritual. Went to a Catholic college where I really developed that spirituality, really built a relationship with God and Jesus and all of that. And I still believe all of that to a point. Um, Not so much a believer in the church anymore, for a lot of reasons, and this isn't really the time or place to discuss that part. But I do kind of want to give you a little bit of an overview of how I started to discover all of this stuff. So first of all, I had my first encounter with, I ultimately believe is my lead spirit guide, when I was about 3 or 4 years old. Now, I don't talk about it very much, but this is something that I remembered probably several years ago, at some point between my time in college and now, which has been about 20 years. um, so anyway, I was a bad little kid, um, which for anybody who knows me would probably find that hard to believe. Um, Especially like anyone who knew me growing up, because that just wasn't me ever. Anyway, I used to. We spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house at the time, as well as my aunt and uncle and their two kids also spent a lot of time there. And their youngest, about 6 months younger than me. So we would play together a lot, and I would pinch her all the time. um, uh, I've kind of gotten to the point where like I don't know that I'm really ashamed of it at this point because it's in the past, and so much has changed since then. But anyway, I actually so we were at my grandparents' house. We've been playing. I pinched her. Don't remember why or any of the circumstances having to do with it or any of that. I just remember hiding behind a tree because I didn't want to be caught. And all of a sudden, there was this voice in my mind that says, "You know, April, you can choose to be good." This was sort of earth shattering, shall we say. Like, it changed everything. Now, I lied about having pinched her when my mom did find me and asked me why I was hiding. I lied. I really had pinched her. Um, and my mom claimed to believe me. I don't know if that's true or not. Um, she and I are not in contact at this point, so I'm not able to ask her. But yeah, but I never did it again. And everything turned around. I remember sitting in a doctor's office and someone commenting that they had never seen a better behaved child. Like, my mom was talking to the doctor, she was talking to somebody, and I was just sitting there. and being very well behaved. um, I remember that actually prior to the first one, but I have to wonder now if they're connected. I decided to be good, like something told me that I needed to be good. And when I did remember that, I had thought that it was God speaking to me because, like I've had that conversation with God over and over again. And, my beliefs on a lot of that stuff has changed in recent years. Like I said, I do believe it was my lead spirit guide at this point. Um, so fast forward to much more recently. So for some time now, had been watching videos on YouTube about empaths, about narcissists and things like that. And I identified with the empath. I always was afraid that I was really the narcissist. And it wasn't until I was in counseling and my therapist pretty much said she's like, have you ever thought that maybe you might be an empath? She referred me to Dr. Judith Orloff. And so I've done research on it since then. And we actually even talked about that. She said, like, I don't see you as being a narcissist. You care about other people's feelings and things like that. And that is very true. However, I do sometimes take on those traits, especially when I'm channeling other people, um, which is another story all in itself. But that was kind of what started this whole process, was my discovery that I am indeed an empath. And that's something that I still really work on. Grounding is something that I really struggle with. And I definitely will like I go through these periods of literally like anger and self-hatred towards myself, only to find out that, wait a minute, this is what the other person was feeling. I don't really feel this way. And I'm immediately able to release it then because they're not my feelings. And so I don't have to go to that place of despair. And, that's every person's feelings are valid. However, I don't need to be feeling other people's negative emotions. We'll put it that way. There's more on that. And like, if you really want to know about it, then feel free to comment below and I can elaborate in a future video. However, what I don't want this to turn into is a situation where we're going to start like bashing and I'm not going to deal with negativity and insults. Like I said, you are welcome to ask questions if they are like true questions and curiosity about these topics. So after that, I started watching tarot readers on YouTube and things like that, and it just slowly started expanding. At first, I was watching it as far as like politics go because I thought they were hilarious. Um, not because like I was really trying to delve into that area of things. I ultimately decided to do a tarot reading on myself using a regular deck of cards because I don't have tarot cards. That may be changing in the near future, though. I've since learned that it's not necessarily the best idea to do tarot readings on yourself. You're less objective. You're kind of too close to the situation. Anyway, I was introduced to a spirit guide in this. So how do I explain this? So he's one of my ancestors and relatively close to my lineage. Actually, my father's father. He was the first spirit that spoke to me through this. And I didn't like him. We'll put it that way. I've since determined that he's not one of my main spirit guides, and he's also not the most reliable. Now, for those of you that don't know me, and even some of you that do know me, I don't really talk about this that much. But alcoholism is very prevalent across my entire family, starting with even like my father is a recovered alcoholic, sort of. He doesn't drink, but he didn't go through any kind of a program. So I don't know that if I can call it actual recovery, but not my journey, not my story. Not going to get into that part of things. At some point, I may get into more about my experience, but my father's father actually passed away when my father was 7 of cirrhosis of the liver. He was a very heavy drinker and all of that. And he definitely has some of those traits, like his energy is very similar to that of my father. My father and I are in contact with each other, but barely. Have very limited contact through Facebook, and it's for that reason. But anyway, the importance of this was that this particular spirit guide ultimately set me on a journey to research my ancestors, which was kind of the next step of the story. So I started researching my ancestors, and I started having some of these other revelations, and other spirit guides showed up. I'm not going to get into all of that right now, just because it's a little bit off topic, but I do want to kind of get into a little bit, just kind of to explain how all of that works. Now, I actually sent them away at one point because they scared me. But then I felt like I was being attacked by negative spirits and by demons, and so I called them back. And I very rarely have that come up anymore. And when I do, I know that I'm not alone. And they kind of help me through it. One of the things that I feel like one of my goals in this lifetime is really to trust spirit, and to trust them to be there to kind of take care of me. But also for me to back them up too, because I have my own strengths in that area. I'm capable of sending them away. I'm also capable of calling for angels to help protect, which I'm listening to myself and I'm like, this sounds totally crazy. But there are things that have happened that I find it very hard to deny these things at this point. I know that like if my family, like I can just imagine like my mother telling me that there's something wrong with me and I belong in a mental hospital. Like that's kind of the story of my life, me leaving home and all of that. Like she always thought there was something wrong with me because I wanted to get away from them and be my own person. But another story. I didn't realize quite how extensive this part of my journey was. So, but anyway, this was when I really first started to understand that I had other abilities other than the empathy. And part of that also came through by reading Judith Orloff's stuff and all of that. Now, I primarily hear the spirits in my mind. I can hear them. And it sounds like my own voice a lot of times, but I can often differentiate, not always 100%, but I can generally differentiate which spirit is talking. I do have some clairvoyance, but basically like I get like a very big image in my mind of who I'm talking to. And so it's not clear. That's the thing, like even my dreams, like the visuals were never clear. Like I was never like super clear as far as clairvoyance goes. Well, I can't give you like an exact description of whoever I'm talking to. I can just give you general stuff. So that's basically where I'm at with that. Now, so Virginia Avenue Park is in Santa Monica, which we'll talk about the location of that in a little bit more in just a moment. Right now, my purpose to bring that up is that I have found that whether I want to or not, I tend to have paranormal experiences in Santa Monica. Now, I've spent a lot of time over in Santa Monica because I don't live very far from there. Maybe possibly moving to Santa Monica in the future. Um, and so, like I said, I do spend a lot of time over there. But there are certain parts of town where I've definitely had experiences. I remember early on when I was just first starting to like let my spirit guides in. I was in I went to pick up a prescription in Santa Monica and suddenly started feeling really queasy. Like I was talking to my main spirit guide. So she's like I said, she's kind of been talking to me like for most of my life. And so I definitely trust her. Like that was never an issue. It was just a little mind blowing to understand, oh, that's not God I'm talking to. That's spirit guide who represents God in a lot of ways. But she said, I know, keep walking. Like I was trying to get to the bus stop. And then in my mind's eye, I see my two other spirit guides, like literally, like sort of like wrestling with this other spirit to keep it away from me. And so it was a little mind blowing. We'll put it that way. I've had a couple other experiences in that area. I'm not going to get into those specifically right now for a couple of reasons. One is that one of the things that I picked up on was a little personal, related to someone I know. And so I don't want to, for confidentiality reasons, I don't want to say anything. Um, I actually haven't even talked to her about it. So, um, so fast forward to Winged Chronicles and me starting the show and all of that. So part of the reason why I decided to do, excuse me, this spiritual element and the ghosts in this series is because I wanted to practice my abilities. And this is also a way of verifying because I have no way of verifying that these spirit guides are real other than trusting my instincts and trusting my gut. And like I said, there are certain things that like I absolutely can't ignore. And if you want to know more about that, again, comment below and I'd be happy to share. I just feel like it's not the right time to do that on in this episode. Because you guys came on to hear about ghosts, right? And so let's get into the ghost. Now, Virginia Avenue Park is located just down the street from the main campus of Santa Monica College. For those of you who may know, I'm actually attending some classes through Santa Monica College. Right now it's all online, but over the summer, when I visited Virginia Avenue Park, I was taking a class on campus. So I walked the couple of blocks from campus down to the park and general information about places that may be haunted that are around me through ChatGPT, through Google searches. The thing is, I have to be really careful because basically I just need to know that there is suspicion of it being haunted. And so sometimes asking ChatGPT is the best way to do that, though ChatGPT does give misinformation. So I fully expected for nothing to happen when I got there. That is not the case. But let's first talk a little bit about what reports, according to ChatGPT, have come up. So Virginia Avenue Park has garnered some attention for unusual energy. Visitors report cold spots, fleeting shadows, and a sense of being watched. I headed into the park. I'm just walking around. Like I said, I didn't expect to find anything. I fully expected to be giving you a report that, in my opinion, it's not haunted. That is not what I found. So I walk through the park, and all of a sudden, I'm drawn to a clearing. And in my mind's eye, I see a man. It's not super clear. Like I said, my clairvoyance is not the strongest, but I knew that he had dark skin. He was a little bit bigger, definitely bigger than I am. Um, so I told him, like, I'm gonna continue walking over to picnic tables over there. I would love for you to walk over with me and have anything to say to me. I'm happy to listen. And he didn't want to come over there. There were a lot of families and children over there, and he was really uncomfortable. So I walked back in the opposite direction and sat down at a picnic table that's a little bit more isolated, and he did come over to talk to me. So he was reluctant much. And I've actually found that before. That a lot of times spirits like to communicate through images, which is really hard for me. Instead, he basically let me experience his last moments. Now, based on reporting that I have found of the incident, I'm not sure that what he showed me was completely accurate. I'm not sure he was completely honest with me, but I have no way of verifying one way or another unless a family member comes forward or a witness comes forward and says, "Hey, I was there. This is actually what happened." Now, basically, I experienced his death to some degree, like the shadows, like everything kind of going dark. So, maybe that was true, very true, because, and I definitely got the feeling that it was a shooting. And now that could very well have been ego talking. Ego gets in the way of this kind of stuff, and I constantly doubt, and like my ego thinks that this is insane. So there is that. So I sat down, I was taking note. I got an image of a woman crying over the body. Again, that's just what I was shown. And I felt this just overwhelming grief. So again, I could have been one else there. I could have been feeling what the spirit was feeling. I could have been feeling what the spirit just wanted me to feel. I also should mention, and I forgot to, that before we got started, I made it very clear that the spirit was not allowed to touch, harm me or my parrot. Like I brought Fox with me, which is why it's called Winged Chronicle. But yeah. So I asked for a name, and the name that I thought I heard was Gerald, which I later found out was not the name, but it was extremely close. I believe the spirit was actually saying Gerard at this time based on what I found. And perhaps accent, I interpreted Gerald. Yeah. I asked if the spirit had anything else to tell me, if they had a message for anyone. I also made it clear that I could not promise that I would actually find said person, that he had a message. I don't know. I don't actually know the character of the person that I was. And so I can't state unequivocally that anything that I was told was the truth. I'm just reporting what I was. And so I'm not going to share the message on here. However, he did say it was to a particular person. So I'm going to share that name. And if this person happens to watch the video and does have a loved one who passed in this park by the name of Gerard, then contact me through my email address, which is going to appear on the screen. The name he gave that I heard was Pauline or Polly or something like that. And like I said, there is a message for this person. If like I said, that I didn't have the exact name right. I didn't understand the name right from the actual person. So I may not have this name right. So if your name is something similar to that and you lost someone by that name in this park, then the message may very well be for you. Feel free to email me. Or if you don't want the message, you don't have to email, but I'm definitely open to speaking with you. I just don't feel that it's appropriate to share them on the channel. And then I asked if he had anything else he wanted to say. He said, "Don't hang around strange places in the dark." So, I mean, or at least that's what I picked up. But yeah, so I thanked him and I said that I was going to go at that point. So I left, and I went home. And over several days, I did some research. I asked ChatGPT about what had shown up as far as within the park, what reports there were. And that's where I found out about the cold spots and all of that. So I continued searching. I found a report about I believe it was a shooting. 4 different people were shot at or something like that. One of them was killed. protecting the others, and it just didn't fit what I had said. Um, and then I went through death records and I found that somebody named Gerardo had been killed in a police shootout in 2017. So I was shocked. Like I said, I didn't expect to find anything, either because the spirit that I had spoken to found, or because I was imagining the whole thing. And like I said, I did actually find evidence to support the things that I had picked up on. So, that's that's what I've got for you. Um, not really sure what else to say. Like it was kind of mind blowing for me to discover, hey, this is really real. This conversation took place. I may not have gotten every detail right, and I know that I don't get every detail right. Some things I get wrong, but I actually had this conversation with a spirit in this park. Actually died within the last decade, within the last like 7 years, 7.5 years actually, and it was actually real. So I think that was the most mind-boggling of the whole thing. But that's why I did it. Is because I wanted to be able to try to verify. So yeah, so if you have any questions about any of my other spiritual experiences, feel free to ask. I'm probably not going to share anything else regarding this particular experience just because there's not really a whole lot else to add. This is very much like I've basically told you everything except for the message. And yeah, so I will leave you there. There will be another episode coming up in a few weeks on Ocean Avenue, my investigation there. I actually have not gone on that investigation as of the time of recording this, so I honestly can't tell you if I haven't made a conclusion as to whether or not it's haunted or not. So you'll have to tune in to find out. And then next week we'll be on pet friendly restaurants in Sawtell, Japantown, and that episode is already filmed. I just have to piece together my voiceover, do my voiceover, and edit it. So I will see you guys next time. Thanks for checking out the video. If you liked it, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll know when the next one's up.